Welcome to the Heart of the Haven, an education series about domestic and family violence. I'm your host, Samantha Anderson from the Haven Nepean Women's Shelter. Today I'm speaking to Sam Campbell, Executive Officer, Client Services. Sam brings with her over 10 years' experience in the domestic and family violence sector, specialising in working with women and children. Together, we'll take you into the heart of change, supporting our community to confront domestic violence. Hi Sam, welcome.
Thank you.
If someone suspects that a friend or a family member is in an abusive relationship, how can they navigate that conversation, particularly if they haven't yet disclosed anything?
So the most important thing I would say is to communicate your belief to them, that you believe their experience of domestic and family violence, whether they've disclosed to you or not. So if it's in a private setting with a family member or friend and they're disclosing to you what's going on for them, it's important to use the words, I believe you, and then also offer help. How can I help? What do you need from me? If it's something that you suspect or you've firsthand seen indicators of this kind of abuse, like verbal abuse in a family setting or in a group setting when you're out and about, then what you can do is start to bring into those group settings vocal understanding and belief that domestic and family violence is not okay. You might talk about a charity that you support that stands up against domestic and family violence. You might talk about a recent media article or something that's happened in the news and stand up and speak out and say, that's not okay. What that does is starts to give some subtle messaging to the person that this is a safe group or you are a safe person to be able to make a disclosure to if they haven't already. That next step is if somebody does disclose to you, as a known person to them and a safe support, offer to go with them places. So if they're ready to make a disclosure to their GP, they're ready to have a chat with the school to let them know about what might be happening for them and the kids at home, or if they're ready to talk to police, offer to be a person to go along with them. Not to speak for them, but to be that moral support, that safe person in the room with them. That can go a really long way to people feeling safe to reach out for those specialist supports in the area. What's really important is to have somewhat of an understanding around the impacts of psychological abuse. So most people that experience domestic and or family violence experience psychological or emotional abuse as part of that. And what that does is it changes the wiring in the brain so that people reduce their self-belief. They start to feel that they won't be believed, that they're not valued. And so some of that will be present in their disclosures. They might minimize, they might blame themselves. So keep an eye out for that language and actively address that as well, that this is not your fault, this isn't okay, don't blame yourself.
Yeah. If a woman is sort of stuck in freeze mode and is very scared and doesn't leave or feels she can't leave, how can that friend or family member support them, or how do they deal with it?
So that can be really confronting for any person. Here's somebody that you're close to or that you love that you can see is going through a really harmful situation. One of the main things to do is be there, because we know that domestic and family violence thrives in isolation. And one of the key tactics that abusers use is to get women and children away from their social networks, away from their family and friends, because the more isolated they are, the easier it is for their abuse to continue. So stay there, be part of their life. Doesn't matter how small it is. It might just be a text message here and there. It might be a hello at the school gate. It might only be every Christmas or family do that you have. Being there and being around and in their life is one of the foundations for them to reach out when they're ready for that support. The worst thing would be that if they finally make the courageous decision to ask for help and they reach out and no one's there anymore. The other thing that you can do is seek some support for yourself. So if you are a family member or friend, if you're an ally that wants to help, but you're feeling a bit stuck or it's weighing a bit heavy on you that the person that you know and love isn't ready to leave, it's okay to seek some of your own support. So go to the GP yourself, use the phone helplines for domestic and family violence are for family and friends use as well. So please reach out and get your own support so that you feel ready to support them when they're ready.
That's really important to know. What part does community play in being accountable for domestic and family violence?
Yeah. So one of the main things is speaking out. So what we see too often is victim blaming, and calling out victim blaming is one of the most powerful community messages that can happen. What that looks like is you may hear some common stereotypes about women and children, common stereotypes about domestic and family violence. The one we hear all the time, which really irritates me and I think most people in the sector, is that why doesn't she leave? It's such a pervasive part of our language and our culture to immediately put the blame on her. It's something that we're aware of that we need to change, but we're still needing a little bit more community backing to change that. Instead, it should be something like, why hasn't his abuse stopped? What help is he getting to stop and address his abuse? What supports are available, or what barriers might be in place for her that she can't leave yet? Yeah, very different conversation we're having. And what we're doing is taking away the victim blaming and we're putting action and accountability on the person who is doing the abusive behaviour. Too often our systems and services are set up for support but not accountability of the abuse and change of the abuse. And whilst we continue to only address one part predominantly than the other, we're letting down women, we're letting down children, we're letting down our community.
Yes, I think that's a really important point that you make. It's putting the accountability back on the person who's doing the abusive behaviour. So that's really important. How can the community become an ally, and what exactly does that mean?
Yeah, so ally is a word we kind of toss around sometimes, and it can be difficult for people to know or understand if they're an ally, if they want to be an ally. Essentially, an ally is a really visible supporter of any particular issue. So in this case, it's domestic and family violence, the safety of women and children in their own homes and in the community. So that involves standing up, supporting and encouraging any marginalised group to be part of the community and have the same safety and opportunities as anybody else. At The Haven, we have the Champions of The Haven. So that is a particular type of business or service that might fundraise on our behalf, and they become Champions of The Haven. Those champions are our allies. They are really visible supporters of ours and therefore women in our community experiencing domestic and family violence. And what we find those businesses and groups often do is go beyond the fundraising. And that's what makes them an ally. They're visible at our community events. They're visible as volunteers or contributing to different volunteer efforts in our service. They also provide accessible services to our clients and to our staff and anything that our service might need. They really do go way beyond the baseline of fundraising. That's what makes them an ally. They're a really visible supporter.
Yeah. And we couldn't do what we do without our champions. They really do help us along the way through funding and just with the awareness that they bring to the community at large. So if you are interested in becoming a champion, please reach out. Also, if you need help or you have a friend or family member who you think needs help, please visit our website www.thehaven.org.au for a list of contact details there to get support. Thank you.